Okay, so then I think we'll move on from there. Let's now go back to Surah An-Nur, inshallah. We'll do something in Nahu next week. Want to get past this verse. Right. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, okay, we'll just do this verse. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, بعد أن أقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله نور السماوات والأرض مثل نوره كمشكاة فيها مصباح المصباح في زجاجة الزجاجة كأنها كوكب دري يوقد من شجرة مباركة زيتونة لا شرقية ولا غربية يكاد زيتها يضيء ولو لم تمسسه نار نور على نور يهدي الله لنوره من يشاء ويضرب الله الأمثال للناس والله بكل شيء عليم. So back to this very, very allegorical verse. I'm always keen to do tafsir of this verse. So allegorical, and it's like when you read the tafsir, it's like so much on every word. Anyways, so I think we started already, and we spoke about the part of the verse that says Allahu Nuru Samawati wal Ard, and we did translation of a bit of the rest. Right? So what did we say about Allahu Nuru Samawati wal Ard? Did I mention anything about the placement of the verse? No, I don't think I mentioned about the placement of it. So tell me, what did we say about Allahu Nuru Samawati? Okay, but I mean, I said a lot also about it. Literal or figurative? I said that the sentence Allahu Nuru Samawati wal Ard is a figurative sentence. Right? And I also said that it is what we call in Arabic a form of tashbih. Right? A form of tashbih, like a simile or a metaphor. You're likening one thing to another. And there's different forms of tashbih in Arabic. In fact, there are 4 components. I can't remember if I mentioned this to you. There are 4 components to a tashbih in the Arabic language. Did I mention this? Yeah. You have the mushabbah bihi, the thing that you are likening something to, the thing that it is likened to. Then you have the adatu tashbih, the particle that shows that you're having a tashbih, right? Like ka. And then you have the wajhu shabah, the manner in which they are similar. And I'm going to give you an example that has all of these components. أنت مثل أسد في شجاعتك. أنت, what does that mean? Translate for me. أنت مثل أسد العيان في شجاعتك, in your bravery. Right? Okay. Now tell me, what was I likening to something else? Anta, you. I was drawing a simile between you and something else. Right? So you, the mushabbah over there. What is the adatu tashbih? The particle that shows that you're drawing a simile. Mithla. Right? What's the mushabbah bihi? The thing that I'm likening you to. A lion, the asad. And what's the wajhu shabah? In bravery, right? So, I mean, I could, there are different forms of all of those things. Like I could say, instead of saying mithl, I could have said ka. I could have said ka annaka, as if you are. I could have, there could have been a different wajhu shabah. I could say anta mithla asadin fi sha'r. You are like a lion in terms of hair. Really, you understand what I'm saying? So a wajhu shabah can be different things, and so similes are like this, right? I can say you are like the moon in brightness. You are like the moon in being around and full of holes, right? So both similes, I'm still throwing a comparison between you and the moon, but the wajhu shabah is different. Right? So you get different types of tashbih when certain of these things are omitted, right? The one that we have here is there an adatu tashbih? Is there a particle showing you that is a simile, a word like mithla or ka? No. So the adatu tashbih is left out. Is there a wajhu shabah? Is Allah mentioned? So there's a, what's the mushabbah? Comparison is being drawn between Allah and Nur. Right? Nuru samawati wal ard. So we have the mushabbah and the mushabbah bihi. We don't have a adatu tashbih. And I'm asking the question, do we have a wajhu shabah? No. We don't. Because we don't have those two things, this type of tashbih is called at-tashbihul baligh. Right? It's a very, it's almost when you're saying one thing is another thing. So if you were to translate the sentence, you would say, Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. Like, if it's more emphatic. It's more eloquent also. If I were to say, you are a lion. There must be some quality of the lion that's so overpowering that I am able to assume that you will understand that from my statement. Right? If I say, okay, we're just going to. If I say, you are a lion, and there's like some qualities of a lion that are so similar that you won't understand anything from the statement, or you might, like, for example, the moon. If I say, you are like the moon, or you are my moon, I tell my wife that. Right? My expectation is that she's going to understand that she's radiant or something like that. Right? Because in our language, that quality of the moon is so emphasized that I have a reasonable right to expect that that's what she will understand, and not the other comparison. Right? If she assumes that, then I'm going to say, hey, man, come on. That's not what I meant at all, and you're not justified in thinking that. So it's a type of, it's called at-tashbihul baligh. It's emphatic, and it's also more eloquent. You don't mention all the details, but there's something so salient in that thing that you're speaking about that you expect it to be understood. So here in this verse, we have at-tashbihul baligh. Right? We have at-tashbihul Allahu nuru samawati wal ard. Allahu nuru samawati wal ard. We don't have adatu tashbih and we don't have a wajhu shabah. But what that forces us is to understand that this must be interpreted in some way. Right? It must be interpreted in some way. How? Are we saying literally Allah is the light and it's not a tashbih? No, certainly not. Why? There's a proof for that. There's a qarina to tell us that it's not literal. And that qarina is that light. Light in Arabic is something that would be considered a jawhar or a jism. It is something that is temporal-spatial. It exists in time and space. Right? Whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not restricted by those things. So it goes against the basic point of Iman. That's established elsewhere in the Quran where Allah says, Laysa kamithlihi shay'un. Right? So we don't draw that like this. So we must understand it figuratively. Now, what do we understand the wajhu shabah as? Is there such a salient feature of nur such that we know what the likeness is in? So the ulama say, look, there is something that indicates to a salient aspect of light, and that is that it guides. One. Other ulama have said no, different things. Another aspect of light that could be referred to here is the fact that it makes idhar, makes things apparent. Right? So those are two of the most salient things that the Mufassirin mention about the qualities of light. What can this can be referred to? So last time, in our last lesson, I said, Allah nur samawati wal ard, we must have interpretation. So nur, we translated as, we said we're going to understand it as munawwir. Remember? And then I still said, what does munawwir mean? What does it mean to say Allah is the one who illuminates the heavens and the earth? What does illuminating the heavens and the earth mean? Does it literally mean placing a light therein such that things can be physically seen? Or does it mean illuminate in a more spiritual sense, to guide? Right? And that's the one that we settled upon. But we actually have a reason for it. We can't just interpret this stuff willy-nilly and say, no, I'm going to understand this as figurative rather than literal. No. The original state of the Quran is that we understand it literally unless there's something that indicates otherwise. So what indicates otherwise here? The siyaq, the context of this verse. So let's look what comes before it. What comes before it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَقَدْ أَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكُمْ آيَاتٍ مُبَيِّنَاتٍ. We have certainly revealed to you ayat which are made clear. Right? And the property of light is that it makes things clear. So it comes between this verse here, آيات مبينات ومثلا من الذين خلوا من قبلكم وموعظة للمتقين. So the fact that it comes after, Allah speaks about the ayat as mubayyin. It comes after this verse, and in other verses of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the Quran as being nur. لَقَدْ جَاءَكُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ نُورٌ وَكِتَابٌ مُبِينٌ. Right? Many of the Mufassirin, there's different tafsir on that verse, many of the Mufassirin say that nur there refers to the Quran. Some say it refers to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, others say that it refers to the Quran. So there's an ayah that speaks about the Quran as being nur, and there's other ayat that do the same as well. But you can just get you a verse wherein Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah An-Nisa, وَأَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكُمْ نُورًا مُبِينًا. So the Quran is referred to as a nur as well. Right? And that's why we understand nur here to be in this context as something that guides. Allah is the thing that guides the heavens and the earth. Imam al-Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala, he says that he prefers the meaning of idhar. Idhar. Right? And that is to make something apparent. And he says nur means that thing that is a zahir, that is apparent and makes other things apparent. And he goes further to say that it refers to the fact that Allah brings everything into existence. That Allah is the being who brings everything into existence. He is the one that takes things out of what he calls the darkness of non-existence into the light of existence. And that's how it becomes apparent. Because anything that exists independently can be seen. Obviously, other than Allah. It has the potential of being seen. Actually, Allah also, even Allah. Everything that exists independently, it has the potential of being seen. Why? Because firstly, in relation to physical things that exist independently, because anything that exists independently other than Allah is something that exists in time and space. Right? Or something from that realm, like your ruh, for example. Right? It exists in time and space. So if it exists in time and space, it can be seen. Your eye may not be able to perceive it because of its strength or whatever the case may be, but it can be perceived. So that's why he goes on to say that this refers to the fact Allahu Nur Samawati al-Ardiyya means Allah is the one who brings the existing thing that brings other things into existence. That brings everything else into existence. Or Allah is the apparent being that makes everything else apparent. Right? And Ibn Ashur refers to it as being the one who gives guidance to the heavens and the earth. So those are just three tafasir of that. And then we'll do the next part next week, inshallah. Look at this, is like one of the most allegorical, if not the most allegorical verse in the Quran. So if we take long with it. مثل نوره كمشكاة, his light is like that of a niche. فيها مصباح, in it there is a lamp. المصباح في زجاجة, the lamp is housed within a glass. الزجاجة كأنها كوكب دري يوقد من شجرة مباركة زيتونة لا شرقية ولا غربية. The glass is like a star, a bright star that is fueled from a blessed tree, with oil that is neither eastern nor western. It's as if its oil is so luminous that it gives light on its own. Not the oil that is lit. It's as if the oil itself is so luminous that it shines on its own. يكاد زيتها يضيء ولو لم تمسسه نار. It's as if the oil is so luminous that it gives light even though no fire has touched it yet. It's not yet a light. It's as if it's already shining. نور على نور, light upon light. يهدي الله لنوره من يشاء. Allah guides to his light من يشاء, whoever he wills. ويضرب الله الأمثال للناس. Allah sets parables for people. والله بكل شيء عليم. And Allah is the all-knowing of everything. والله بكل شيء, Allah is of everything. عليم, all-knowing. We'll do the rest of the verse next week, inshallah. وإن فنا وجزاكم الله خيرا وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
So again, the adatu tashbih, right? The particle of emphasis, or the tool that indicates a simile, and the wajhu shabah, the angle of similarity. No. You can. I can say in Arabic, أنت أسد شجاعة. Right? You can. That's not exactly the same like a similar. That's why I said, yeah, a metaphor you don't explain in English, but yeah, you have these four things, and some of them can be left, and then they form different. So there's actually four types of tashbih. Whereas not just simile and metaphor, there's four types in Arabic. Right? We'll look at it maybe next week, inshallah. All right, for now, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.